Yeah. Young adult, Juno.
That makes me feel uncomfortable.
Does it really? Why is that?
You know, because I think it sounds sports related, and I'm Jewish, and I've never done anything sports related.
I want to talk to you. How?
About sports?
No, please. Oh God,
It
no.
was a little bit of ice hockey. It was not good.
Why wasn't it good? Tell me.
Because I'm just, I should be a better Canadian.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you chose your own path. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing.
See, we should talk more often. I need to hear this.
Listen, I'm a great talker. I am also like a great listener. Just call me Dr. AJ. This will be like one big old therapy
Can you
session.
talk about my dad a little?
Sure! How excited was he for this?
He was over the moon. I mean, this is something that my father's wanted me to do for a long time. I've been asked for many years, would I ever make a Ghostbusters film? And I'm certain my father was hoping I would say yes.
Are you hella excited right now?
I really am. I can't believe it's opening weekend. I also just didn't think this was going to happen. We've been sitting on the film for a long time, and I'm really proud that Ghostbusters is a Sony Pictures film, because Sony Pictures is the studio that is most dedicated to theatrical release. And that's the reason we're in this giant theater right now, is because over the last 2 years, they had plenty of opportunities and offers to sell Ghostbusters to streaming. And as much as I love streaming, unlike anyone here, streaming got me through the last few years.
Absolutely.
But what I missed was this. What I missed was, buying a ticket, getting the popcorn, watching the trailers, and being in my favorite place on earth, in a movie theater with my friends, with strangers, and we're laughing together. And the first movie, I'm not sure how many for the rest of you, first movie I went back, I was like, oh, that's right, this is a movie.
Absolutely. Do you feel like that there is some anxiety leading up to opening day, opening night? Like, what are you feeling Thursday night, last night?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I want people to love this film more than any film I've ever made. And look, when we made Thank You for Smoking or Young Adult, I think there was an understanding of, okay, this must piss off a few people, but this is a movie that should just make you happy. This is a movie that should remind you what it was like to watch the originals. This is a movie that should remind you what it was like to go to movies when you were a kid. It's the kind of movie you want to bring your kids to or bring your parents to. So, I really hope this movie reminds you of everything you love about Ghostbusters.
How do you feel when somebody walks up to you on the street, right, and they say, your movie got me through blank, or it made me feel like this? Like, how does that make you feel?
Look, up until now, I've been making independent films that sometimes do the opposite. We had a test screening of Young Adult once, and a woman after in the focus group just said, I don't know why Jason Reitman wants me to feel this way. But look, I think Juno really had an impact on a lot of people, and I think that's really because of Diablo Cody and Elliot Page and an extraordinary group, Jen Garner, Bateman, Sarah. I mean, it touched people in a way that I never expected, and certainly that has gotten back to me in extraordinary ways. The last 2 years has mostly been people coming up to me and saying, don't screw up Ghostbusters. Don't ruin my childhood. Don't disappoint your dad. Like, a lot of that.
Well, it's so funny because it's like, well, I'm going to try my best not to screw it. It's not like you are willingly trying to screw up the movie, you know what I'm saying?
That'd be messed up, right? If I was like, oh, do you love this? Ha!
That's so awesome, though, that you were able to, not necessarily revamp this, because I feel like it tells its own story, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, we wanted to make a movie that again, reminded you everything you love about Ghostbusters, and at the same time, go to a new location with new characters on a completely new adventure. And for me, it was really important to do that with a 12-year-old girl at the lead of the movie, because my daughter at the time was 12, my writing partner Gil Kenyon's daughter is 12, and we wanted this movie to lead up to a young, brilliant, scientific 12-year-old girl who's kicking ass.
What? How long does it take you to even do this from start to finish?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, if you stay for the credits, which I recommend you do, it would be a shame if you left before the end of the credits. Right? You will see that there are 1,000 people who made this movie all around the world. And they're all Ghostbusters fans. There's a lot of Easter eggs in this movie. I didn't hide all of them. They were being hidden by everyone on the cast and crew. I'm still finding out about them.
Really? Can we talk about some of the Easter eggs, or do we have to wait and?
No, we can go. We can do that.
What are some of the Easter eggs that you can remember that are in the movie?
Okay, I'll give you some. I'll give you a few things to look for. Some will be obvious, some will be less so. The first time we meet Phoebe, she has a headlamp on, and it is a reminiscent moment from. Does everyone remember Egon Spengler with his headlamp on? Then you will love that moment. Does anyone here remember? You were throwing some softballs out there earlier on the trivia.
But everybody was good. They were good. They were spitting them out.
Yeah. What was Egon's one toy as a child? A slinky, but he. That's exactly right. And there's a straight and slinky in the movie. If you see Phoebe in a purple t-shirt, try to look really close. In fact, you're in the perfect place. You're in IMAX. This is the perfect opportunity to see one of the great Easter eggs in this movie that no one has spotted yet, actually.
Really?
And it is in Phoebe's t-shirt, so look closely.
Guys, you gotta make sure you pay attention.
Let's see, what are my other favorites? There's a few shots where the design of the shot is actually meant to replicate a shot from the original. So there's gonna be a time where you see Ecto-1 come flying out of a garage and around a corner, and it's a really obvious mirror of a shot from the '84 film. There's a shot of Trevor leaning over the hood of the car and fixing the car that mimics a moment when Dan Aykroyd was fixing the car in the original, and Sigourney walks in the door. Hold on, I made a list of Easter eggs to talk to you about.
Aren't you loving this, guys?
Spores, molds, and funguses, that should be obvious. The housekeeping hand tag that was on Venkman's office in the original, look for that. A crunch bar, everyone remember the crunch bar? Why does he give Egon the crunch bar? Because? That's right, he earned it. Here's a fun one. There are 2 references to other films of my father's in this movie. My father was the producer of the St. Bernard children's films, Beethoven. Listen for that reference. And my father's first film, does anyone know the name of my father's first film?
No, see.
Cannibal Girls. Cannibal Girls. Cannibal Girls.
No, my mom actually paid for half of this movie. Really? Yes, and it was called Cannibal Girls. Look for that reference.
You know, when you put something like that in the film, are you constantly racking your brain? Like, how am I going to fit this in? How are people? No?
No, when Gil Kennan and I sat down to write this movie, we made a list of everything we wanted to see inside this movie, and we could only fit about a third of it in there. I mean, look, this movie is very much a new story about a new set of characters, and at the heart of them is this young girl named Phoebe. That said, we love movies, we love Ghostbusters, and we wanted this to be just a trip down memory lane in the most fun way possible.
Shall we go to some Twitter questions?
Oh God.
Do you guys want to do that? Some Twitter questions? Kelly Spas, blah, 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 blah. That's literally what the name looks like. In the car, and it goes.
It's always funny when like Twitter gives you a handle and you just take it. You're like, whatever Twitter gives me.
Did you just give up?
That's my handle. I'm fine with that.
Sorry if you're in here, Kelly. In the car in Ghostbusters Afterlife, a recreation of the original car, or is it the same from the original movies? Well, we heard about the original.
That's a great question, actually, because the car that was chosen for the original, that was chosen by Dan Aykroyd, is a 1959 Miller Media Cadillac, and they only made 100 of them.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So the original one from 1984 is on the lot at Sony Pictures. So when you see people take pictures with the car on the Sony lot, that is the real one. And I've actually been lucky. I've just been traveling around the world with this movie. I've gotten to meet Ghostbusters in Mexico, in the UK, I was in Amsterdam, I was in Paris, and there's an Ecto-1 in every one of these places.
Is it really?
Yeah, because there's Ghostbusters groups in every city. Are there any Ghostbuster group members here tonight? It's awesome. So when you see someone dressed up as a Ghostbuster, this is not an adult child. This is someone who loves Ghostbusters, but also is a member of a Ghostbusters group. And what these groups do is raise money for children's hospitals and do charity work around the world. They're amazing. It's really extraordinary. They do this everywhere. I don't care what country you go to. There's a Ghostbusters group there. They have their uniforms, they have their packs, they have their cars, they have their own patches, and they show up at hospitals and they raise money and they do incredible work. And I wish more people knew about that.
That's really interesting. How do you feel when you hear stuff like that? Just continuing the legacy of Ghostbusters, like when you hear how people go to hospitals and make children feel happy and think, like, how do you feel when you hear stuff like that?
It's extraordinary because I remember being on the set of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's a weird thing when you make a movie because you're doing this thing in a vacuum and you never know whether it's going to be good or bad or whether it's going to have an impact or not. And when we made Juno, we made this tiny little movie about teenage pregnancy up in Vancouver, and we hoped that it would play film festivals and maybe some people would see it. And then I've made some other films that I really thought would have an impact, and nobody's ever seen it. Like, you just never know what's going to happen. So, to have been on the set of Ghostbusters in 1983, and to watch my father be a part of a cultural touchstone is extraordinary and intimidating. You can imagine what it's like to grow up in the shadow of that.
Right.
And I was nervous my whole life about ever touching anything in Ghostbusters, because I consider it precious. I really admire it, I really love it, to see the impact it has on people. It just makes people happy. It's the kind of movie people used to put in the VCR because they just want to have a better day.
Right.
So to pick this up for just a moment and pick up this baton and pretend for a second like I'm just going to carry the baton for a second, it's really intimidating. But then to bring it out to audiences like this and for them to embrace it, I'll never experience anything like this again in my life.
And it's almost extra intimidating because it's something that your dad did.
Yes!
Right.
And he was there the whole time.
Right.
Like, I want you to just imagine for a second.
Mine ran off 20 years ago.
Okay, so then maybe we go. He's like, Dad, will you shut up? No, like honestly, like if your folks came with you to work every day and weighed in on all of your decisions.
Micromanaged or no?
He's a director. like we're both directors. And so, yes, we would get in fights sometime, but then if you're on the phone and we're talking about the movie and we're going over our notes and we're getting into it, it doesn't matter how hard we fight, at some point we have to stop and go, okay, how's mom?
Right. But at a certain point, are you like, Dad, this is my movie? Okay.
I would never say that because Ghostbusters doesn't belong to me.
Right.
But it also doesn't belong to him, and that's the kind of crazy part. It belongs to everyone here, and we borrow it. And what I want to see is more Ghostbusters movies. What we wanted to do with this film was set the table. This is not the end of something.
Right.
This is hopefully the beginning of something, so we can see more Ghostbusters.
I love that. Shall we get another Twitter question?
Sure.
So from DMGRBY 1971, after two successful Ghostbusters films directed by your father, was there anything that you learned from him, no matter how minuscule, that aided the production?
You don't read the extra part?
No.
As a father myself, I can't imagine how proud your father is of you. Congratulations. That's interesting.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Time! Come on, timing.
I don't understand why more people haven't seen Men, Women, and Children than Labor Day, your other two classics that came after Juno and no one else seen in the theaters. I love that. Thank you. My father's my storytelling hero. That's true. And I could never even begin to list all the things I learned from him. But I'll do some fun stuff because we're talking about Ghostbusters tonight. Here's the best thing. You need wind. To make a Ghostbusters movie, And I want you to look for this tonight too. Ghosts show their presence by wind. And we had a truck that was just fans. Everything from a leaf blower to a 6-foot ritter. You know someone's in the presence of a ghost because their hair starts to wave, their clothes start to move. And that goes back to the original. If you think about the guys approaching the library ghost in the first film, and the way their hair is moving and the way their clothes are moving, and that's tricky. We had long sessions where we talked to the special effects guys who operate the fans how to make the wind seem magical.
That's awesome.
Right? It's fun.
Yes, right. Here we go, another Twitter question. What was your favorite part of working with the cast and crew on this movie?
Oh my God. Okay, so a lot of things. And you have to understand that I've been making movies with the same people forever. So my cinematographer, Eric Spielberg, who shot this film, we met when we were 15 years old. Like, we got dropped off on our first set because we couldn't drive yet.
Wow.
And he's the guy who shot my short films. He's the guy who shot my commercials. He shot Juno. He shot everything, you know? And I feel that way about Steve Morrow, my production sound guy who I've worked with since Thank You for Smoking, or Jason Blumenfeld, my first AD, who we met doing commercials. I mean, it's intimidating making a movie like this, but I was capable of doing it because I have a crew that I've known forever. And these incredible people who I met up in Calgary, where we shot the film. It's one of those beautiful places on earth.
I love that you work with, your crew, because it's like they have your back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they care. And look, I say this to young filmmakers all the time. It's not your job to try to convince, Darius Kanji or Tom Siegel to come shoot your film. Find the people your age who you want to grow old with. Because on a shitty day on set, it's not going to matter how talented the other people sometimes. What's going to matter is that you love each other and you're in it together and you're going to hold each other up. That's what's going to matter on the bad days.
What do you say to someone that created the film, no one maybe have seen it, and they are discouraged? How do you convince that person to keep going?
You have to tell stories every single day. I think there's this mistaken identity in film that you know what the film is from day one, like Hitchcock could storyboard everything, or that it's supposed to be, you made one thing and you're a genius because of the first thing you ever made. If we approached guitar that way, or poetry that way, or painting that way, or literally any other art form, you'd think it was crazy if someone was like, I painted one painting, it's the first thing I ever painted. Judge me for my career on this. It's like, no, we grow. We're all still trying to figure out how to do this. I'm still trying to figure out how to do this. What I tell people is, there's two things that are going to happen simultaneously. One, maybe a little young for this movie. Just like a tad young. It's PG-13. Two things are happening simultaneously. One, you're learning your skill. You're learning how to tell stories, and you're learning how to shoot, you're learning how to cut, and you should be telling stories in any way you can. I include TikTok. I've seen phenomenal TikToks that are really well cut and really well shot, and they tell a story and they're funny, and it sounds ridiculous, but it's true. This generation that is making TikToks every single day, they're learning how to tell visual films every single day. And the other thing, go have a life. I mean that. Go make mistakes, go have a life, because these two things at one point are going to converge. At one point, you're going to have something to say because of all the shit that's happened to you in your life. And right at that moment, when you were like, okay, I now have something to say because of what I've learned, you want the other side, the side that was learning how to tell stories, to meet with it. So by the point you know what you have something to say, you know how to say it.
You know what's interesting? I love, going back to your TikTok question, I feel like there have been so many people that have been discovered from social media because you realize how creative people are on TikTok and YouTube and things like that. So it's almost like an unconventional way for people to get discovered.
Look, and I get the irony of me talking about TikTok,
When people ask me, how do you become a director, you know, my first answer is always, be born the son of a famous director. It's infinitely easier. I shouldn't be telling anyone. I'm literally the luckiest person who has ever been born. I was born to this brilliant filmmaker. I got to grow up on the set of Ghostbusters, and my dad loves me. Like, it's a really nice trio. I'm very, very lucky. And, but I spent my life going to film festivals, watching people be discovered out of nowhere, and that's one of the most incredible things to be a witness to, is storytellers who are coming from everywhere, who are learning how to make movies in all kinds of ways. And when I look at TikTok and I look at social media, I see the democratization of filmmaking.
I know you say, like, be born.